In tonight's Healthcare Insider, preparing for a cyber attack. A majority of the nation's medical healthcare providers have experienced some type of data breach in recent years, prompting them to spend more on cybersecurity. But a recent survey indicates these organizations may not fully be prepared for the next intrusion. Joining me with the latest is Alex Ruoff, health IT reporter for Bloomberg BNA. Alex, before we dive into the survey, let's talk about the cyber threat itself. Why are healthcare providers a target?
Well, simply the value of the information they have. Healthcare providers collect a lot of information about you, and that information is very valuable. Some say 10 to 20 times more valuable than your credit card information.
Now, earlier this year, Anthem was hacked, putting nearly 80 million customer files at risk. Other systems like Primera exposed data on millions as well. Are all hacks this large in scope, or could there be smaller, less noticeable breaches?
Well, that's actually a good question. The federal government only publicly posts information about breaches that affect more than 500 people.
Oh, good point.
So we don't really know a lot about how many of these small hacks occur. Some people, some of the information goes anywhere between 60-some to 90% of all healthcare provider organizations have seen some kind of cyber attack. There's a famous saying amongst cybersecurity officials that either you're aware of your attack or you've been attacked and you're unaware of it. But it's really kind of unknown how extensive it is.
Now, how easy is it for hackers to get into these systems, and how long does it take to cause this much damage?
Well, I'm not sure if it's easy. I do know, and a lot of law enforcement officials talk about this, is that cyber criminals, people who perpetrate these attacks, are getting more sophisticated. They do a lot of their homework, is what they say. They really take their time, and so they are becoming more sophisticated, and therefore the tools to catch them, the tools to prevent them, are having to become more sophisticated as well. And that has really been tough. It's a big race between the people who try to protect information, the people who try to get it, and that's the really tough part here is how sophisticated the attackers are.
All right, Alex, let's get back to the survey. The Healthcare Information and Management Systems Society polled nearly 300 industry executives on cybersecurity. What were the major takeaways when it came to them being prepared?
Well, I think a big one, or at least a big one for me, was that healthcare is taking this issue more seriously. They're spending more money. They're taking more time. They're really dedicating resources. HIMSS itself, the organization you're referring to, it's just called HIMSS, says you should spend anywhere as 10% of an IT budget. Healthcare itself is expected to spend about $10 billion in the next 5 years on this kind of cybersecurity work. So really one of the takeaways is they're taking it more seriously, but they are still really concerned that they're not ready for it. Very few organizations in this survey said they believe they were ready for any kind of attack.
People say they are, but then they're surprised somebody comes through the back door and throws everything out of whack. And over the years, hackers have gotten increasingly sophisticated when it comes to these attacks. So what does the healthcare industry need to do to fight this rising threat? Is any system hack-proof?
Well, I don't believe that, or at least from what I've been told, there's no such thing as hack-proof. So a lot of cybersecurity professionals, a lot of experts on this, have told me that it's not about being hack-proof. It is sort of about damage mitigation. It's about making sure that you fall under that space where maybe you lose a little information, maybe they get some part of your system, but you don't become a headline. I think that's a big focus for every healthcare organization right now, is not to be on the front page of any newspapers and to be very confident that they're going to lose a lot of information. Those are very expensive for them. It costs them anywhere. I mean, I've seen figures that say it costs them $200 a record every time they lose. And if you're talking about 50 million records, that's quite a lot of money.
Now, Congress has been taking an increased interest in the rise of cyber threats. You think they'll weigh in on the issue of healthcare data security?
Well, I believe so. Some aides for the Senate Help Committee have said that they are likely to hold some hearings and maybe look into this soon. Soon for the Senate is probably early next year. The Senate Help Committee and the Senate Finance Committee recently sent a letter to some HHS officials to ask them about what they do about medical identity theft. That's really, part and parcel of this here is what the federal government's can do to help people whose identity has been stolen, so that it's a little less devastating if your information gets out there.
Alex Ruoff, Health IT reporter for Bloomberg BNA. All good information. Thanks, Alex.